It's the matchup presented by Draftkings. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Welcome back in here to the studio. Week number 2, a little fresh paint on the walls, pictures, accessories, all that stuff. It's coming. We'll have that fully decorated in here and give you a first-hand look at the new studio when we hit the airwaves next week. Before we get to that, got a big tournament this week. The top 125 in the FedEx Cup standings. They are in Norton, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston for the Northern Trust. Now remember, there's only 3 legs of the FedEx Cup playoffs now. And the first event is going to rotate between Liberty National in the New York area and TPC Boston. So this is the first time the Northern Trust has actually been outside of the New York area as they move over here to Boston to play this really terrific golf course that is TPC Boston. I've played it many times. Used to go up there when I was the director of instruction for the PGA Tour Academies. We do a road show there, entertain a lot of guests, get them better at their own game, but then get to play the golf course. And the golf course is fantastic. It's going to be hot in Boston. It's going to play about 7,250 yards. And you start looking at this course, and I think back to my experiences playing it, and then of course you look inside Fantasy National, which is really just a terrific website, fantasynational.com. Check it out. And you look at how the players have played TPC Boston. What plays out well here at this particular golf course? Well, no surprise, strokes gained approach. We know that's the most important stat no matter where you play. What's interesting though here at TPC Boston is the strokes gained putting is about as close as it'll ever be to that strokes gained approach. So really, I'm looking at this as strokes gained approach 1, and then strokes gained putting right underneath that as 1A. In particularly bent grass. We're back on now some speedy bent grass. Last week down in Greensboro, that speedy Bermuda. We were all over Billy Horschel because we know he likes those speedy Bermuda greens, as does Sam Burns and some other players. We had a good week last week. Felt good. We were not on Jimmy Herman. Jim Herman gets his second win and now has more wins officially than our boy Tony Finau. We'll get to that more later into the show, but we're back on a different surface, bent grass greens, so we'll look at that. Strokes gained off the tee, of course, that distance factor is going to play in here. We see that historically with previous winners. Bryson DeChambeau here won here a couple years ago. Now he's a little bit longer now, but he wasn't relatively short either when he won here. Rory's won here a couple times. So we know that strokes gained off the tee is also going to be moved up some. And then finally you get to strokes gained around the green, which I think is even bumped up here a little bit, but it still comes in 4th. You're seeing the trend here, right? If you watch the show, strokes gained around the green, right? Short game. You got to have a good short game to play on the PGA Tour. We hear that, right? We hear it from our grandfather and and our dad. They're like, man, you got to have a good short game. Yeah, you do, right? You got to be great at everything to be on the PGA Tour. But when you start looking at the statistics, strokes gained around the green is usually at the bottom. All right, give me a great ball striker, strokes gained approach, and then give me someone that's going to come in there and make some putts and get hot once in a while. And then you've got yourself something. And then, of course, the distance is going to play into that as well. Although it's been interesting, right? It's been pretty cool to see maybe the distance kind of flattening out just a little bit, right? Not as much chatter as we've seen Michael Thompson get into the winner's circle. Jim Herman, guys, are not going to overpower you with distance off of the tee. But hey, if I can have a little more distance, like a Bryson, like a Rory, and I can win in the strokes gained approach category, and I'm up there in strokes gained putting, yeah, sign me up. That seems to be the formula on the PGA Tour. So let's get right to it, right? This is a terrific course. As I mentioned, you're going to see a lot of birdies here as players go out, holes 1 through 4, hole 7, and then a lot of birdies coming in. The teeth of the course is really in the middle, right? So you're going to go out with birdies, you're going to come in with birdies, which I like for some, entertainment coming in. That par 5 is always fun to watch at TPC Boston, the 18th hole. So let's get right to it. We go head to head here. I give you my thoughts. Big game this week in Draftkings. If you're new to DraftKings, get in, use my promo code Travis, and you get a free entry into the big game. 1.55 million total purse with 500,000 to the winner. I've also got my own game. Check it out. It's called the Stripe Show. Get into that fantasy game. Good fun. The winner of that game, well, you get a hybrid from Ben Hogan Golf, and you get a case of balls from Encore Golf, the new Vero X1, which is a terrific golf ball. So let's get to it with matchup number one. Matchup number one, Rory McIlroy versus Patrick Reed. Surprised, perhaps, that I'm going with Rory, considering his play, versus Patrick Reed. Rory, 10,800. Patrick at 9,000. Great value for Patrick Reed at this venue. We'll get to them momentarily. I like to use matchup number one. Opportunity to talk about some of the higher priced players in DraftKings can be the most difficult, right? Sometimes because these players, well, they can win anywhere. They're the best players in the world. Starting with JT, he's 11,300. First at the St. Jude, 37th at the PGA. JT hits enough fairways and does enough with the putter. He's going to be there, right? His strokes game, approach game, off the chart. Does he do enough with the putter, and does he keep the driver in front of him over 4 rounds? Bryson, 11,100. He won this event back in 2018. 4th at the PGA. Bryson plays his game at all here, close to his A game. He will be tough to beat, I think, come on Sunday. He's got to be in some of your lineups there. DJ, 10,400. Interesting one for me. I love me some peak DJ, right? Thank you, Brooks Koepka, for inspiring Dustin Johnson. It was cool to see peak intensity Dustin Johnson, because when you get that, he performed. Second at the PGA to Colin Morikawa. Positive 6.8 putting. For DJ, you go back to the Travelers, positive 6 where he won. In between that, 12th at the WGC, missed the cut at the Memorial, negative 6.2 putting. DJ not afraid to change putters. It's just all about, does it go in the hole? If it does, and he's got interest, well, he's in there most of the time if those two things are happening. Colin Morikawa, 10,200. I mentioned him. First at the PGA. His strokes and approach game is so good. I mean, the kid is just so poised, such a terrific ball striker. His putting strength, bent grass. TPC Harding Park had bent grass. Great putting week. We're back on bent grass once again. Morikawa has to be, I would think, in some of your lineups. He could just go full on Tiger Woods mode and just start winning everything here down the stretch. John Rahm, oh yeah, the number one ranked player in the world, coming in at 10,000. There's Xander at 97. I played him in some cards at TPC Harding Park. You know, there was some really good, and then he would just kind of fall asleep. So can Xander put it all together for 4 rounds? We'll see. Webb Simpson, you got to like him here. 2011 champ, 3rd at the Wyndham last week. Although if the Tour played the Wyndham every single week, Webb Simpson would be the number one player in the world, because he loves himself some Sedgefield there, Greensboro, North Carolina. You go to Jason Day at 9,300. You know, Jason fires his swing coach and then just goes on a run. All of a sudden, like, he's back to looking like he's the number one player in the world again. I mean, he's up there every single week. His approach games have been beautiful. We know he can putt. Could be a good venue for Jason Day. There's Patrick Cantlay. Brooks at 91. Feels like a lot of golf for Brooks. Feels like he's pressing a bit. I'll pass there. Let's get to our matchup. Rory McIlroy versus Patrick Reed. Rory, 10,800. You know, you look at COVID, right? And you look at when it hit in March at the Players' Championship. Rolling into the Players, Rory was no question, undoubtedly, the number one player in the world. When everyone's hitting on all cylinders, I think Rory is the best player in the world. COVID hits, we come back, he's not the same player. He's had a hard time kind of getting things fired up again. 32nd at the Schwab, 41st at the RBC, 11th at the Travelers, 32nd Memorial, 47th WGC, 33rd PGA. Timeout. Those aren't Rory McIlroy kinds of finishes. We're used to those top 5 finishes every single week like he was doing before COVID. Rory's going to turn this thing around eventually. I mean, it's coming, right? He's the defending champion of the FedEx Cup playoffs. I think what Brooks had to say about DJ and the guys in the leaderboard irked Rory a little bit. He retaliated with some comments. I think we're going to see a more focused Rory, a peaked Rory, and I think it comes down to that. I think it's as simple as that for Rory and the DJ. Focused, chip on the shoulder. I'll show you. Statistically, his ball striking is fine. It's been a little up and down at times. but it's going to be fine. This is a great course for him. He's won here twice, 2012 and 2016. Now he's going against Patrick Reed. I like where Patrick Reed is going. You start getting the best players in the world going. Speaking of chip on the shoulder, you know, Patrick Reed tends to kind of carry that with him each and every week. 9th at the Wyndham, 13th at the PGA. He's back on bent greens, which is his best surface. And you look at how he's done here historically. Remember, 2019 was at Liberty National, right? Rotation, we're back here. 2018, he was 35th. Didn't have a great week there. 2017, he was 6th. 2016, he was 5th. 2015, he was 4th. So 6th, 5th, 4th here. 3 consecutive years. I think he likes it here. When you look at him inside there at fantasynational.com, which is a great website, you'll see +4, +5 in the putting category. So I think he likes these green. I think his ball striking is really starting to take a turn here for the good. He's starting to get in the positive off the tee, approach game. That bodes well for Patrick Reed. I like both of these guys, but if I had to pick, I think this is the week we see Rory turn the corner and maybe get back in the winner's circle. Match number 2, Tyrrell Hatton versus my boy, Tony Finau, who currently now has 1 less win than Jim Herman. But that's going to change. Finau is going to get that second win soon, and perhaps it could be this week at TPC Boston. Now, one of the things that I like to do is go inside fantasynational.com and look at the last 50 rounds, just the guys in the field, and look at how they match up and rank them, which it does for me, in the different categories. Let's go to strokes gain, approach, and kind of factor in a little bit strokes gain, tee to green, just the overall ball striking standpoint. So we go in last 50 rounds, strokes gain, approach. Right now, number 1, last 50 rounds, Colin Morikawa. No surprise, right? This is a great place for him. Worth noting, he's never played here before. This is the first time he's played TPC Boston in a tournament. But back on bent grass greens, this feels like a good spot for him. Justin Thomas, no surprise, coming in at number 2. There's Russell Henley at number 3. We were all over Russell last week. Loved him from the ball striking standpoint. Loved him on those fast Bermuda greens. Can he do enough here on the bent grass greens? I think that's probably the question mark for Russell. Hideki, no surprise, number 4 strokes gain approach. But putting, he's 123 out of 125. So he's nearly dead last. 125 is Emiliano Grillo. There he is, who is also a very good ball striker. Paul Casey, number 5, but he's 117 in putting, although he had a good putting week out at TPC Harding Park, where he finished 2nd. Those were bent grass greens, so can he keep it going here? Tiger, there he is. Strokes gain approach 6. His putting right now, he's 75th. So it's, you know, it's not anywhere where Tiger used to be. But, you know, I think we'd be foolish to think that the best player of all time, at least one of them, top 2, is not going to have a good putting week here and there, right? He seems healthy. His swing looks good. Driver check. Irons check. Short game, okay. Putting, I think that's the big question mark. Can he do enough here in Boston? Adam Scott, we haven't seen much of him. I think he was 22nd last week. 22nd at the PGA. That was his first event back. He comes in at 7th, strokes gain approach. Hovland, no surprise, at 8th. Can he do enough with the flat stick? Patrick Cantlay just feels, you know, a little, I don't know, like he's just kind of caught in neutral a little bit. And his neutral is much better than most, but we're not seeing that real great play from Patrick Cantlay as of late. And we get down here, there's Tyrrell Hatton, strokes gain approach 10th, and then strokes gain putting 81st. Now, my eyes go to Tyrrell Hatton, and as you guys know, I'm a fan of Tyrrell Hatton. I think he's a pretty underrated player, and I think he's got good value this week because the last 2 weeks he hasn't played. Well, he missed the cut at the PGA, 64th at the WGC. But I'm going to go ahead and make the statement that I don't think Tyrrell Hatton forgot how to play golf, right? Because you go before that, check this out, 4th at the Rocket, 3rd at RBC, 1st at API, 6th at WGC Mexico, 14th WGC H8, that was the HSBC, and then 6th at the CJ Cup, which I know was a long time ago. But my point is that's a run of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a run of 6 tournaments. All of them inside the top 14, including a win, okay? You go deeper. You look at him statistically, and these numbers have actually gone down just a little bit from where he was because of his play the last 2 weeks. Strokes gained off the tee, he's 89th. The approach game, he's still 4th. This is overall now on the PGA Tour. Strokes gained around the green, 56. Strokes gained putting, 20th. Strokes gained total, 7th. This is one of really the best players in the world. He won Arnold Palmer. He's won on the European Tour. He hadn't played great the last 2 weeks. I get it. But I think the overall game is there. Took last week off, recharged the batteries. I think Tyrrell Hatton can make a splash here, kind of elevate himself to the next tier in these playoffs. I like Tyrrell Hatton. He's going to be in some of my lineups. Now let's go to my homer pick, which is Tony Finau. You guys know I love me some Tony Finau. He's frustrating, right? I get it. He's frustrating. If you're putting a ticket on him to win, you're really frustrated, right? Because he should have won in Phoenix at Mexico. He was 4th at the PGA. He got outplayed down the stretch. I thought he played well on Sunday down the stretch, but Colin Morikawa, the shots that he hit down the stretch were off the chart. But Hatton's at 8,000. Finau's at 8,800. You got to look at Finau. This is a good spot for him. He was 4th back in 2018, and his statistics are so good. Off the tee, 29th. Approach, 17th. Around the green, 32nd. Putting, 77th. Strokes gained total, he's 13th. Both of these guys, especially Finau, thrive and benefit more on bent grass. I think this is a good spot for both of these guys. Finau's been playing good. I think he'll continue to play good here. Hatton, I think he turns it around, gets back to how he was playing. If I had to give the edge, believe it or not, from a win standpoint, I think I would take Hatton over Finau. Matchup number 3, Kevin Kisner versus Sanjay M. Kiz coming in at 7,600. There's Sanjay M at 7,700. So some good value here for both of these guys. But before we get to them, let's go into Fantasy National. Let's go the other way now. Let's go strokes gained putting over the last 50 rounds. This has been a good model for me. I like going in, looking at the approach game, looking at off the tee specifically, and then maybe together, and then strokes gained putting specifically, and just see who are the names that pop up, right? And is there some crossover there? And where would be some really good plays based off of this? It worked beautifully for us last week. Let's go again this week. Strokes gained putting, last 50 rounds. There's Denny McCarthy again. No surprise. Denny McCarthy is a great putter. He was up there last week there at the Wyndham Championship. Can he do enough from a ball striking standpoint to have another good finish? Kevin Na, strokes gained putting, he's 2nd. Strokes gained approach, 55th. I can see Kevin Na. He's had one good finish here in years past. Wouldn't be surprised to see a top 25 out of Kevin Na. Bryson DeChambeau, number 3. That's why Bryson is one of the favorites here. Great ball striker, great putter. Matt Kuchar comes in at number 4. Kuch just kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of lukewarm on Kuchar right now. I'm going to pass. Matthew Fitzpatrick, someone that I seem to be looking at a lot this week. I'll probably play Fitzpatrick in some lineups. 5th in strokes gained putting. He's 52nd in the approach game. Strokes gained tee degree, 49th. So you got to look at him. Patrick Rogers, big kid out of Oregon. We think, ball striking, but his strength, putting. Strokes gained putting, last 50 rounds, 6th. There's Webb Simpson again. Now you're starting to see these best players pop up on both lists. JT Poston, probably pass. Billy Horschel, we were all over him last week. Strokes gained putting, 9th. Strokes gained approach, 74. So Billy could be an interesting play. Billy, great on fast Bermuda. That's why I liked him last week. Now we're back on Ben. I'll probably pass. There's Poulter. There's Patrick Reed. We've already been on them. And then we get down to Kisner. Strokes gained putting, 12th. Strokes gained approach, he is 62nd. So right in the middle of the pack. And as I turn to Kisner here, I think Kiz is starting to show some form now. I think he's, he can be a bit of a streaky player. And we're starting to see Kisner now put some things together. His best putting surface, he's a great putter just in general, but his best putting surface by far is bent grass greens. Last 3 starts, 25th at the WGC, 19th at the PGA, 3rd at the Wyndham. And now we get back onto his best surface. I look at him the last 2 weeks. Strokes gained tee to green, 7.7 positive at Wyndham, positive 2 at the PGA. Approach game, he was positive around 5 in both of those weeks. So I think he's probably found something here from a ball striking standpoint. You match that up with his ability to putt. I think Kisner could be a bit of a sleeper here at 7,600. Now, you go over to Sanjay M. You know that I'm big on Sanjay M. And Sanjay went through a period there after COVID as well and struggled. Rory was playing great golf pre-COVID, and so was Sanjay M. He was first at the Honda. He was 3rd at API. He comes back 10th at the Schwab, but then just, not good play. He really struggled. He struggled so much that he took a week off. And Sanjay M takes no weeks off, but he took one off. And, he had a couple missed cuts. He had 3 missed cuts in there because he did miss the cut at the PGA. But he comes back at the Wyndham, and, it looked more like Sanjay M to me. He was 8th. He was positive 8 in strokes gained tee to green. He was positive 5 off the tee, positive 2.2 approach, positive 2.5 in putting, and finished 9th. That was big for me to watch Sanjay and just look like Sanjay M again. I think his head perhaps is officially out of his behind and back to playing some good golf. So I like Sanjay M. He is a complete player. He has it all. He was a former Rookie of the Year. If you're going to talk Morikawa, you're going to talk Wolf, you're going to talk Hovland, you got to talk Sanjay M because he deserves to be in that conversation. Kisner, M, they're going to both be in my lineup. But if I had to pick, I'm going to take Sanjay M over Kevin Kisner. All right, let's take a look at the bubble guys. Top 125, of course, are in this week, TPC Boston, but only the top 70 make it to the BMW Championship. So 125 right now, there's Wyndham Clark, Bo Hoag, Tom Lewis. Shane Lowry got in. He was on the outside looking in, actually, before the Wyndham. Finished 23rd and playing some better golf. Lowry, a little bit of a late start post-COVID. He was 6th at WGC, 23rd at the Wyndham. He's now up to 122 as we scroll up here. Scott Stallings at 117. Luke List at 160. If Luke List could just make some putts, he would be easily in the top 70. There's Graham McDowell, 113. Justin Rose, how about that? Justin Rose at 109. How about this for Justin Rose? In the last 5 events. Now, remember, he split with his swing coach, Sean Foley. How's that going? 4 missed cuts in 5 events. His only cut made the PGA, where he just careered it with the putter. 7 strokes gained in his putting, which is, you're not going to sustain that. But his ball striking has just fallen apart. I mean, I'm not sure what Justin Rose is doing. He's a mystery to me. Zach Johnson played well last week. He was 129 before the Wyndham. Now he's 104. I like Sam Burns. There he is at 103. I think Sam Burns will be a player that continues to climb for the years to come. Spieth at 100. Does Jordan Spieth make it to the BMW? Can he climb 30 spots? Your guess is as good as mine. Fleetwood at 89. Bit of a late start for him. Fleetwood seems to be struggling a little bit with his ball striking, as is Ricky Fowler at 88. A lot of swing changes there for Ricky Fowler. I'm probably going to stay away from him this week. Siwoo Kim, good week last week, goes from 121 to 82nd. Now remember, the points, I think, are doubled or tripled this week. So, these guys can move up with a good week. As we saw last week with Siwoo Kim moving up 39 spots with a great week. There's Patrick Rogers at 77, just on the outside looking in. Harold Varner III, he can flash from time to time. Decent week last week, moved from 89 to 73rd. And then we get all the way here. Now we get inside the top 70. There's Brian Harmon at 69. Phil Mickelson at 67. So he's going to need a positive week to move on, as is Bubba at 66. Kuchar at 63. Doc Redman, the ball striking machine. Good week last week. Goes from 84 to 60. And on up here, Corey Connors' good year. He's currently 56. There's Paul Casey at 55. And Jim Herman, after his second win at the Wyndham Championship, moves from 192 to 54. And that's what can happen in the FedEx Cup playoffs. And on that note, I think we'll wrap it up for this week's matchup presented by Draftkings. Remember, or get into Draftkings if you don't have an account already. Set one up, use the promo code Travis, and you get a free ticket into the big game, which is 1.55 million total prizes and 500,000 to the winner. Draftkings are the leader in one-day fantasy sports. I love it. I play it all the time. I'll be filling out some of my cards and pushing them out on my social media handles, Instagram at Travis Fulton Golf, and Twitter at Travis Fulton if you want to follow along there. I actually have my own game as well. It's under the Stripe Show. You can get into my game. Lots of fun there. Some added prizes to the winner, including a Ben Hogan driver and a case of Vero X1 Encore golf balls. Thank you for being here. I hope some of this insight helps you fill out your lineups, you make some money this week, and you enjoy the Northern Trust at TPC Boss.